Crypto is dead, at least if you're Chamath Palihapitiya or Voyager. But if you're an Arbitrum DAO, things are just lifting off. This is Around the Blockchain. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Make sure you hit that like button because we have some great guests on today. We're going to get right into it. On the top left, when he hears Young, Dumb, and Crypto, he doesn't think of his old YouTube channel. He's thinking of the meme coins. TJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Actually, I think of Young, Dumb, and Broke, that song from Khalid back in the day. But yeah, doing good. Happy to be here.
All right. Always a great time. Also on today, Cassius. And Cassius, if he ever had a metaverse Ethereum avatar, I don't know if on Ethereum, he might just be a lyric sim. Cassius, how are you doing today?
I'm good. What's poppin', DZ, man? Great to be on the show, as always.
And that bar of lyric sim and Ethereum, I give to you for free. I expect it on your next 7 songs. All right. Also on today, we have T Shroom and T Shroom from Investing Bros. Investing Bros, how are you doing, T Shroom?
Better than I deserve, Easy.
You know what I say about the Investing Bros? I say, look, when it comes to the channels, the rest are slow, so stick to the best you know. That's clearly the Investing Bro, T Shroom. Always a great time. And last but not least, we have Piano Matty B. He needs no rhyme. He needs no rhyme. He knows that. He needs no rhyme because he has the best thumbs in the biz. In fact, some of his thumbs look like the scene of a crime. Therefore, he needs no rhyme. Piano Matty B, I do want to say you do have the best thumbs in the business, especially whenever they involve Hunter Biden or Gensler. Guys, you just have to check out his channel for you to know what we're talking about. Links are going to be in the description. But let's get right into the show. And that is right. Chamath Palihapitiya says crypto is dead, at least in the US, because the regulators, they're just making it too onerous for any real crypto company to operate in good faith. I think we've seen a little bit of that with Coinbase and their recent lawsuit against SEC, just saying, hey, we want some clarity. We're giving you letters back in July. Still receiving crickets. Therefore, we must take it to the courts. Now, TJ, what do you think of this strategy? We have them kind of waiting on the sidelines. They say, hey, look, we're going to give you clarity. But if you're in the dark, you're not hearing anything. Is it too risky a strategy to take them to court, or are they kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here?
No, I don't think so at all. You're talking about taking the SEC to court?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it's great seeing some offensive. I think they've got a pretty strong case. They've reached out and asked for clarity in the past. They've gotten no response. They're basically taking them to court over a document they submitted back in July of 2022, if I believe so. So we're coming up on a year's worth of time for the SEC to formally respond. They just completely ignored it while serving Coinbase with a Wells notice. So I think it's great that we see people kind of taking the fight to the SEC. We watched on the congressional hearing not too long ago where Gensler just got demolished by a lot of the lawmakers out there, basically airing a lot of the same concerns that this industry has for no clarity or regulation by enforcement, or basically aggressively pushing strong wealth generating companies in the blockchain industry overseas, offshore, outside of the US, removing our competitive advantage. I mean, we had a clear front run competitive advantage in blockchain space coming into really as this whole space developed and became what it is. Most of it started here in the US, and now we've been able to just track it on a graph. It's all moving outside of the US, and it's a massive disadvantage. The more time that this continues, the longer term the effects of this is going to be, in my opinion.
Well, T Shroom, I mean, what do you think about that? We have this exodus of companies. We have, people pausing things. We'll talk more about Binance and Voyager, but one of the reasons they cited was, just regulators are not being very helpful in the US. Is crypto dead? Do you agree with Chamath's assessment? Is it dead in the US? And what are your thoughts about that? Can we change it?
I actually listened to the All In podcast. I'm a big fan. I like Chamath. I don't think they get everything right. Obviously, with this call, they're not getting it right. But I think that there's something deeper going on here. We heard with Biology Srinivasan a couple weeks ago when he predicted that Bitcoin was going to 1 million. When on that week that we had those banking crisis started, and then also recently there was a guy who called for gold to go down to 1,000 per troy ounce. So I think what influencers are realizing is you have to be black or white in the space where uh, having a voice is becoming more and more difficult. If you want to get noticed, you have to be black and white. Guess who perfected this and proved this? None other than Donald Trump himself. He spoke very black and white. It's either a 1 or it's a 0. I think Chamath isn't doing anything differently here, DZ. I think what he's doing, and I said this in the Investing Bros this morning, is he's just being very black and white. Either crypto is dead or it is alive. And this week, we are seeing crypto trend towards death, I suppose you could say. That doesn't mean it's going to eminently go there, right? But Chamath is just trying to gain attention, and he's done really well with that historically. He's been a very successful VC, and he is a co-host on an extremely popular podcast. So while he doesn't get everything right, clearly he's not getting this right, and on the All In podcast, they don't get everything right. David Sachs, also another host on All In podcast, he doesn't get it right all the time either. But I think ultimately, if you really understand what Chamath is saying in the context, is he wants crypto to do well. He's not saying crypto should be dead. He's just saying that crypto is dead. And I don't think that he really believes that. I think that he's just trying to get clicks, get attention. And I'm certainly no stranger to that myself, but I'm not going to go that far and say that crypto is dead.
2 quick points. You missed Chamath's main thing that he has going for him. He's sweater aficionado, of course, so we can't forget sweater aficionado. And David Sachs, yeah, he doesn't get everything right, but he got that Solana top right. I will say that, and I actually celebrate that. I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Just my personal opinion. Now, Piano Matty B, Chamath's main fear seems to be regulation. You're our northern brother. You live, in Canada. For those who don't know, so I think it's fair to say you are no stranger to regulation, especially crypto regulation. What is your main concern when it comes to crypto regulation?
Well, my main concern is almost like more of a doomsday scenario that, they try to pinch every on and off ramp off, and it's just impossible to get in or get out. Because, all the normies will ask me, well, what happens if the internet shuts off? And I go, well, you're probably dead too. So if Bitcoin's dead because the internet's dead, then we're all probably dead. It's nothing to worry about except for survival. But as far as regulation up here, we just follow basically whatever, you guys do. We have a dictator named Trump, or not Trump, Trudeau. And he'll just do whatever you guys do. When Biden came and met with him a couple months ago, he's just basically saying, this is what we're going to do. And then Trudeau implements it one little piece by piece. So I look to you guys. Whatever is happening there is going to happen here, unfortunately, because there's zero innovation when it comes to Canadian politics. Let me get that straight.
Well, they're really innovative against the truckers, I would say. They took that above and beyond where we can go. Cassius,
Right.
U.S. is not looking great in the long term here when it comes to crypto regulation. It seems like they are trying to, maybe strangle it in the crib there. Can the U.S. recover from this, however? What are our odds that we can turn this ship around, this BitBoy cruise around?
Crypto ain't dead. All right. So here's the thing. There's one of the three things that we always loved about crypto and Bitcoin when I first learned it was that, it's decentralized and it's trustless and it's borderless. So the fact that right now we have no regulatory clarity and, there's regulation by enforcement instead of actual rules being written so the crypto companies can follow them appropriately, which I believe that they would if they had clear regulation, it's still borderless. And so that's why crypto is never going to die. That's kind of one of the main things I've always said that, obviously the United States has a great influence on the rest of the world for different reasons, whether it be because of the world's reserve currency, et cetera, et cetera. But still, part of the main features of blockchain technology is that it goes overseas. So, sure, they could stifle it with regulation in the United States right now, but kill it, it's not going to happen. So one of the good things about America is that every 2 to 4 years, we always have elections, and it actually does. The pendulum usually swings back one direction or the other. So that kind of makes it more of an opportunity for the newer ideas, which the people are always ahead of the governments. They will eventually come into play. The lawmakers, there's a churn in the lawmaking business. And basically, we're starting to see more and more people be pro-crypto, I think, than less crypto in leadership. So dead? No. Obviously, it's hyperbole. I mean, I think that's something that you said, like you said, to get clicks. But I'm not afraid. It's just one of those things you got to hodl.
Yeah, I say tack that onto the list of the amount of times Bitcoin has died. It's I don't know where we're at, but in the thousands.
I
Go ahead,
had
TJ.
some actually. I had something on that before we moved on from that because it was cracking me up here in this Bitcoin. I agree with what Shroom was saying that it is a lot about just trying to get clicks for Chamath. Like I don't think he really believes that Bitcoin is dead. But I found this. I don't know if you guys can see this here. This Bitcoin is dead database. I mean, here's all the times and the prices. Like these are all headlines calling for saying Bitcoin is dead at all different points in time and different price points, saying it's never coming back. I mean, here's mention after mention after mention. This is only going through 22. I mean, this is only 20. I mean, we can keep going and going and going. So there you go. These are all the times the pundits have said Bitcoin is dead when it clearly was not. Yeah, Bitcoin's not going anywhere.
All right, clearly immortal. That's the evidence that I'm seeing thus far, at least. All right, well, let's talk about a little airdrop that's happening. That is right, free money, everybody. Hit that like button if you like free money. Well, the free money today, minus gas fees, is Arbitrum. Arbitrum just did another airdrop. I want to pull up the price chart before we show the graph, what this distribution is. Here is their all-time price chart. You can see, we had a couple dips getting in that scary range around $1.15. But then after that, with Bitcoin's run up, it's been performing pretty solidly. And then, maybe kind of just trading within this channel, probably hoping to break out above this $1.40 range. But they just airdropped 1.13% of their 10 billion token supply. It's going to several DAOs, and there's at least 60 DAOs getting 75,000 ARB or more, coming in at slightly above $1, so pushing around $100,000. The top DAO, Treasure DAO, and I don't know if you guys are participating in this, they're splitting 8 million ARB tokens, so we're seeing quite a significant amount there. And GMX, I think, also expecting an 8 million airdrop as well. So SushiSwap, Balancer, Aave, Dodo, some of the main names that you're used to hearing here. Now, TJ, I know you didn't participate in the ARB airdrop, but I do want to ask you about this VC narrative around this coin. There's several VC narrative coins here. We have Optimism, we have Arbitrum, there's others. I mean, there's a lot of money just pouring into Polygon. What are your thoughts on Arbitrum just overall? I mean, is this a safe hedge? Should people maybe scale into L2s like multiple? Should they choose one? What's your L2 investment strategy?
Yeah, that's tough. I think you treat it like a niche. At least that's what I've been doing. I've been layering, buying some of the top one. So I hold some Matic, some Optimism, some Arbitrum. There's also other competitors out there, ZK Sync, Starknet, some of those that are, in the same niche, just smaller projects, newer to the game. So that's the way I would treat it. Obviously, heavier or bigger, larger size on the larger market cap coins. But I do think there's going to be probably multiple winners for a while. I see all three, Arbitrum being a lower market cap than Matic and some of the bigger ones right now, I think has a little bit more upside. But I think realistically, I see them all performing well. Arbitrum, I think from a developer side, seems to have had more excitement around it. Now, I'm not a developer. I don't really, I haven't actually worked with the trade-offs between Optimism and Arbitrum on a technical level, but just my experience from people I've dealt with, they seem to be leaning towards Arbitrum. The transactions, TVL, a lot of those metrics seem to be leaning towards Arbitrum. So I expect that one to be a big winner going into, through 24 all the way through 2025. So I'm looking at this recent pullback. We talked about it on Blockchain Basement actually today. Yeah, we went over a similar article saying that now anywhere between $1, $1.30, I feel like is a really good range to be accumulating in. So, because I think there's going to be plenty of profits no matter where you're accumulating at these levels. So, yeah, I'm a big Arbitrum fan, but I do hold a decent sized bag of Optimism and a decent sized bag of Matic. So, I'm spreading across this niche, treating it kind of like I would with a smart contract niche too, where I've got obviously heavy Ethereum, Cardano, and then you go down. You start taking lower size positions in lower market cap projects. That's
full disclosure, I'm doing the same. I would say they're roughly equal in those same three projects: Optimism, Arbitrum, and Polygon. I have a little bit. I'm hedging my bets as well. Yeah, I pulled up this article. They're airdropping $120 million worth of ARB tokens to 125 DAOs. And it was 137 DAOs, and 125 of those actually received it. Now, Piano Matty B, they're not a stranger to negativity. There was the whole snafu where they paid themselves for expense, operating costs is what they're calling it. And then the community voted against the proposal. And then they said, oh, no, you weren't voting on whether or not we receive it. It was just, you're kind of ratifying it, using some lawyer speak there. There's a lot of FUD happening right now. People, we have a graph showing how many tokens are about to hit the ecosystem. A lot of people are expecting a major dump. It's the little sliver right there. You see Arbitrum ecosystem DAOs. Is this a trade the FUD event? Are you looking at this for any opportunity? What are the charts telling you, Matty?
Well, when it comes to these altcoins, I do have a speculative moon bag, but I don't get deep enough into any of them to really appreciate what's good or what's bad. I just feel like I don't want to be on the losing end of some miraculous pump. But by no means do I go deep into them. I just put a little bit of money. So if it does pump, I've caught a little bit of an upside. But I mean, with all those people involved, it's bound for something bad to happen. You take a kitchen with a piece of pie, right? And you have one person walk through the kitchen. They're going to look at it, look around and go, you know what? I'm just going to take a little bit of this pie and no one will know, right? And then two people come in at the same time, like, well, maybe, will you tell if I do? No. So all these people coming in and all these people governing this token is just bound to collapse. Eventually, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's the humans that will be the downfall of it.
All right. Is there any other L2s that you just particularly like, though? Do you like Optimism? Do you like Polygon?
I do like Polygon. Strangely enough, I have the most Polygon in my speculative moon bag, but that's about it.
Oh, okay.
Everything else
is
maybe 10 to 1.
Okay. A little insight into Matty's bag there. All right, Cassius, what are your thoughts on the L2 ecosystem? Are you participating? Is this too early? Are you worried about the next hot L2 coming out? Or are you similar to me and TJ hedging your bets at the moment?
Well, when it comes to crypto, I think we're early on everything. So I think everybody watching this and everybody potentially investing, always remember that most of these are speculative assets at the moment. However, I definitely believe in blockchain technology for the future. Hard to pick which one's going to be the winner. So yes, always diversified. It's not investment advice, but that is my strategy. So I don't only look at L2s. Kind of one of the purposes for L2s is for scaling. I like some of the other L1s, proof of stake protocols that also, have, fast, cheap, and easy like Algorand. So I definitely think that there's room for multiple competitors in that space, not just other L2s per se. But I'm always diversified because it's hard to say. Definitely like Polygon as well.
All right, skipping the L2s for the L1s with a little Polygon sprinkled on the side like Salt Bay. All right, Shroom, I want to ask you about this strategy. It seems to, there's a little bit of, maybe a little happiness in the Arbitrum ecosystem for once. It is about 1%. They got 137 DAOs, 125 are receiving this. But I want to talk about the next couple dominoes. Is this actually going to spin out into more projects and more protocols building on the Arbitrum ecosystem in an impactful, meaningful way outside of the DAO ecosphere?
Well, the last part of your question kind of caught me by surprise. But if I'm following the first part, I think that if you wanted to get dApps built on your layer 2, distributing and doing airdrops to DAOs is an excellent way to do it. So if that's really kind of the outcome that you want, then I think that they're moving in the right direction. In terms of getting dApps developed outside of the DAO community, then no, because you would have wanted to do airdrops outside of the DAO community. But so I'm not exactly sure if that's what you meant with that question. But I mean, ultimately here, I do a lot of research on coins like this. I did do a deep dive into Arbitrum, and I think it's going to be a good project. I think it's going to have a good competition for Matic and Optimism and some of the other layer 2s. But it didn't stand out to me as something that I wanted to add to my bag. I'm not saying it's not a good project. Again, I think it's going to be solid. But it just wasn't one that I was like thrilled, because are they really doing anything wildly innovative on the layer 2? In the layer 2 landscape, it wasn't really clear to me that they were. They have a lot of ground to make up if they want to compete with Matic, and Optimism has been red hot the last couple of weeks. So, it's going to be tough to try and stay in the headlines with a name like Optimism and you'd still have Matic. And there's there's nothing stopping other layer twos also from throwing their hat into the ring. So when it comes to Arbitrum, I think it's a good one to have to diversify, especially if you think that the layer two thesis is going to continue really strongly into the future, of which I do. You do have the the sharding that could potentially put a damper on the layer two industry ecosystem. I think that has we'll go back and forth, but I think that's mostly been resolved from a Web3 standpoint. I think that layer twos are going to be okay. But it wasn't. Again, I'll come back to this. Arbitrum wasn't something that I felt super compelled to put into my moon bag, so to speak. I would say though that the layer two cryptos that I've been seeing, they don't really seem like moon bag type cryptos, if you know what I mean. They're not micro cap. Like these are, if you're deploying a layer two for Ethereum, you have a pretty robust development team, and you're because you're being trusted with some pretty significant traffic if you're getting into that line of work. You're not just creating a dApp that has like a super niche little collection of NFTs that if it went down nobody would really care. Like you're providing service to a very large portion of folks that rely on the security of Ethereum. So layer two ain't nothing to F with, I guess you could say it like that. So I'm a really big proponent of getting off to a good start, and Arbitrum did not do that. When I looked into it more, I actually watched a BitBoy video about and to learn more about kind of what happened, how they kind of tripped at the starting line from a PR standpoint. It looks like there wasn't really too much actual harm or foul. I think what happened in the final analysis, my final analysis, is that there's a lot of accounting minds and a lot of developing minds running that organization of Arbitrum, not a lot of PR minds, right? So they're just trying to think of things that work, things that are just going to get the product to market. These are probably a lot of tech bros, and they're not really, they don't spend a lot of time rubbing shoulders with people that think twice about releasing things. They're just like, okay, it works. We ran a test net. It works. Let's ship it. And then it ships and it works. So they have a lot of confidence. And then all of a sudden they do something with the governance, and it didn't make a lot of sense to the audience, but they're like, well, but the price is still okay. And, there wasn't any downtime. So why are you upset? So I think that's kind of the scenario. More than there was anything malicious. I think that they're just probably not a lot of PR and marketing brains over there. I will say that their marketing looks good. Nothing against their marketing.
Yeah, this not the first protocol. I was going to say, not the first protocol we see need a little bit of help marketing. eGold comes to mind. TJ, what do they even call themselves now?
Multiverse X. Yeah,
X,
it's hard to keep up with.
I was almost hoping you wouldn't know. All right, and I think Arbitrum. An earlier point T-Shroom made, the market caps are much, much larger than they were with the Matic, in 2020. So, just be careful if you have some like 100x figures in your mind with some of these L2 plays. All right, well, let's move on and talk about Binance and Voyager and CZ potentially backing out of the deal. This was dated all the way back in December. They started doing this, and they're going to acquire them for $1 billion. They just sent out a letter today terminating the buyout, set to rescue the crypto lender there. The reason cited, U.S. regulators. Dun, dun, dun. I know, very shocking. You were not expecting that, the plot twist there. Voyager tweeted out, today we received a letter from Binance terminating the asset purchase agreement. While the development is disappointing, our Chapter 11 plan allows for direct distribution of cash and crypto to customers via the platform. Binance attributed it, quote, hostile and uncertain regulatory climate in the United States. Now, it was supposedly died down to a hostile environment, TJ, here in the American regulation. What are your thoughts? Was it a smart move on Binance to bail out of this deal? But first, there's a rumor, TJ. I wasn't actually going to bring it. It's borderline irresponsible. That's how breaking this rumor is, people. I want you to pay attention here. And before Binance pulling out is part of a conditions of an imminent settlement with the CFTC. CFT commissioners, no immediate path forward. This is the only reason I'm giving any validity here. Look at CZ's response, TJ.
Meh.
Shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen this guy's tweets for years. He's usually pretty responsible with his tweets. You wouldn't expect, that without it. I don't know. I feel like there's something there. What is your thoughts when you saw the shoulder shrug?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that was the first thing that when I heard this news to begin with, that was the first thing that popped in my mind before, even seeing the tweet or the shoulder shrug or anything like that. Like, okay, we know the CFTC is putting major pressure against Binance.com. There's been a massive FUD campaign against Binance.com, basically from the entire U.S. regulation, pulling him into, lumping him into all this stuff with FTX, trying to paint him as a bad guy, and several different scenarios. I saw another article today trying to tie Binance to China. We know Binance is the far and away number one exchange in all of crypto. So it really got me thinking, at the beginning of the show, obviously, and I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here, so just bear with me. But at the beginning, I was saying how terrible all these regulations and the regulators and Gary Gensler and SEC has been for crypto in the United States, pushing it out. Well, they're also violently using it to attack the SEC and try to make it harder. To attack Binance to make it harder on the East, I would say. Now, again, I don't put Binance in that category, but they clearly are trying to do that. So it really got me thinking, like, okay, maybe now this harsh regulation is all it's all a setup to make Coinbase stronger, because at the same time, you've got Coinbase suing the SEC. The same time Gensler was being grilled, they're putting out things saying, oh, Coinbase is going to leave the United States. I don't know if they really will. But I'm not surprised to see Binance backing away from this Voyager deal, because there has been unrelenting pressure on Binance to stop this deal. The SEC has been trying to stop this deal from the very beginning. They just didn't have any grounds to stand on. Then after it all got approved, now we've got this case from the CFTC against Binance.com. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see if, like, hey, all of a sudden that case gets a little bit easier because they're backing off acquiring another exchange that will give them even more market dominance. And then I had heard recently Gemini, now I don't know if this is true, this is also an unconfirmed rumor, that Gemini is now starting to get its bid in place to potentially pick up the Celsius assets and users. And it would be very interesting to me if now, after we see this Binance and Voyager deal get killed, if we see another US company like Gemini, Kraken, or even, I doubt it'd be Kraken, but maybe potentially Coinbase sliding in to pick up Voyager. Now it starts to even out that battle a little bit, so this could be the U.S. trying to use their regulation to prop up crypto or blockchain in the United States. Just my random theory that I thought of 30 minutes ago, but it does get, the timing on all of this legal action is very fascinating to me, because you've got these very large cases that takes a long time to build and a lot of information to pull together that all seem to be dropping right at the same time. And I think it's partially strategy on the part of Coinbase, strategy on the part of the SEC. Obviously, there's some gamesmanship in there with Binance as well. So yeah, it's this might be a boring time price-wise to be in crypto, but it's a fascinating time when you're talking about the roadmap we're going to see in blockchain and the globe for the next 25 years.
All right, you bring up a good point, because initially I was thinking, well, yeah, it doesn't make much sense to stop. Binance, you have 80% of the market. Oh, whoa, we got to stop this. You'll have 81%. Maybe potentially setting up a better competitor, building up a number two, rather than so much about trying to tear down the number one. So it's a good point there. Here, one extra point for that. All right, now Piano Matty B. I don't know how familiar you are with the CFTC. We have the SEC on one side, CFTC. CFTC. Supposed to be commodities, gold, supposedly Bitcoin, pork bellies. If we get a green light from the CFTC saying, hey, Binance, U.S., you are good to operate in the U.S. In fact, start offering more Americans Bitcoin. Will that create a nice movement upside? Can we expect some huge, fat, juicy green candles on the daily if we get a big green light from the CFTC?
Well, speaking of big, fat, juicy green candle, looks like we're in the midst of what some legacy analysts call a little pump right now. It's 28.1 or something like that.
Let's go.
Are we pumping on the short term? You can pull it up. I don't know if you have that.
Yeah.
4-hour chart. Yeah, nice little candle. It's like market flinches. Something bad or good happens, the market just kind of gets shaken up and then kind of reverts to the mean. But I feel like any kind of investment on that level, like as far as CZ is concerned, it's like Kevin Bacon in that Footloose town. He's going in wanting to dance, and everyone's like, "We don't want dancers here. Just get out." So I don't blame him if he's gun shy and pulls out and goes somewhere else. To tell you the truth.
All right, and thank one extra point for the Footloose reference. All right, nice little movement there on Bitcoin. So anybody open along before the show. Hey, I'm not saying ATB pumped the price, but you know what? Might have pumped the price. Your like button, if you haven't hit it already, please go ahead and do so. Now, Cassius, what do you think about the SEC coming after Binance? I mean, do you think they have CZ in the crosshairs? Does Gary Gensler want to take out CZ and Binance?
Yeah, I mean, Gary Gensler is proving himself to be anti-crypto, so they're probably in the crosshairs. But honestly, I think Gary Gensler's in the crosshairs too. So, I do wonder if there is a new SEC or restructuring that will do for crypto, because obviously the SEC covers more than crypto. We always talk about it in reference to crypto, but them coming after Binance is something that to me seemed inevitable. It seems like he's coming after every cryptocurrency company, and also Coinbase potentially leaving the United States. I can't imagine they wouldn't still do business in the United States, but I can see why they would want to definitely expand globally. The fact that the SEC is really coming after all the crypto companies, I kind of feel like there's going to be a backlash against them because it's not wise in the long.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. All right, final question, Shroom. It's sticking with CFTC versus FCC or SEC. Can the CFTC embrace Binance.us, embrace CZ, and protect it from the abusive X that is the SEC and Gary Gensler? Can the CFTC be its white knight?
That seems to be kind of the way that the narrative may be unfolding. It's one path that could go forward. When the CFTC, when we covered on the Investing Bros, when the CFTC went ahead and levied that action against Binance, that was my first thought. Was, oh wow, they're kind of making a claim like this is our land to regulate. This land ain't big enough for the two of us. Kind of obviously nudging there to the SEC. And I think that is the way that things are going to unfold. I think that the CFTC has their head on their shoulders. I think that they are regulating in a much more American traditional way. I think the SEC would have been inclined to do the same if it hadn't been for your boy Gary Gensler over there, who seems to have some pretty deep pockets and some pretty deep connections to be able to pull some strings for things to happen not in favor of crypto. I think that his days are numbered, though. On the show, we predicted that I predicted that he's got about 30 days left. So now it'd be about 26. I don't know if that prediction is going to be right, but if you listen to the tone of those congressmen and women when they were grilling him, man, they did not like him at all. Now, it's more than likely they have some crypto themselves or they know somebody who has some crypto. But DZ, that tweet that you showed, I think that is spot on with the one where CZ was doing one of these. Not saying yes, not saying no. I think that is kind of the reading between the lines here. Why that Voyager deal did not go through ultimately is because, Binance wants to continue to put the pressure on the crypto industry to say, hey, stand up, write your congressman, write your senator. Let's get something going here. Let's get Gary the heck out of here. If they just went through with the deal, then they would have missed an opportunity to say, hey, you guys want your money back from Celsius? It looks like we can make it happen according to their bylaws. We can send it back to you, but we're gonna go ahead and wait because we'd really like you to just go ahead and press a little bit harder for your regulatory agency, the SEC, to put their foot on the gas of actual, clear, level-headed regulation, so that the crypto industry can move forward. And all of that messaging was encapsulated in the shrug emoji. If you guys didn't know, that's what the shrug emoji is for. So overall, I think that the CFTC is it's been a really interesting landscape to observe, that dynamic between the SEC, the CFTC. I think there needs to be a total overhaul of the SEC and the CFTC to bring crypto into the 21st century, to regulate it in a way that it is not seen as a commodity or a security, but actually as a third asset class. There's many more asset classes, but a third compared to those before listed, so that it can be understood properly, and so that it's not like legacy cattle farmers who are the ones that are having to pass legislation on crypto and NFTs. It should be people who understand it, and I think that who those types of people are, tech bros, right? Who can get in there and pass some actual legislation that's going to benefit the crypto industry and lead to a fruitful and thriving ecosystem where new ideas are presented, and those ideas, if they're bad, are cast to the wayside by the market, and new ideas like Arbitrum, entering the market, it has not been cast by the wayside, even though it had some bumps. It's been brought in. People have been very grateful for it. They're holding on to it. It looks like the price is going higher. The airdrops haven't hurt, I will say. But ultimately, yes, I think the narrative going forward is going to be that the CFTC continues to say, look, SEC, look, this probably should have been your job, but you guys suck so bad at it, and you need to get the wolf out of the hen house over there. It's eating all the chickens, and it's making you guys look really, really silly. Look what just happened at Congress. Your wolf just made a complete fool of himself. All the congressmen totally made a laughing stock out of Gary Gensler, and he made a laughing stock out of himself, not answering the question directly whether or not Ethereum was a security or not. Absolutely hilarious. I loved watching that clip make its rounds on social media. But DC, I think you're hitting it right on the head. I really do.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say
that,
my favorite
CFTC
clip from that was definitely he wouldn't answer if he financed the Steele dossier, but that's a whole nother topic. Wait, no, I'm sorry, that's for the basement show. I forgot it. This is ATB. I'm just Deezy. I'm not supposed to get greasy here. All right, well, I think that's all we have time for today. T-Shroom, good prediction with Gary Gensler. 26 days left. We're going to keep an eye on that one. I think the odds are a little bit better than Balaji's $1 million Bitcoin. Maybe slightly. So we're going to be watching that one. But your little soliloquy at the end put you past TJ. So the Oscar goes to T-Shroom. I don't know if it was that Shroom T, but he brought the fire today. T-Shroom, feel free. Leave us with some parting thoughts.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for having me. Thanks, everybody who's sticking around. And let me just give an extra big thanks to people who are watching around the blockchain, because you guys, believe it or not, you guys are the real MVPs here. Sticking around when Bitcoin is, kind of moving sideways here, where there's not a lot of fireworks. There's not a lot of people becoming millionaires overnight in crypto right now, but you're sticking around because you believe in the freedom that this beautiful coin can bring, and the mini alts that are going to come up with it and do a lot of really good things. So thank you guys so much for sticking around in the crypto YouTube community. I am T-Shroom. I do host a YouTube show that covers not just crypto, but also investments of all kinds, real estate, stocks, bonds, all kinds of stuff. And I would absolutely love for you to come check us out. That is at Investing Bros with a Z is where you can find me. I just came up with that. I hope you like it, DZ.
Hey, man, the rhymes are contagious. It's Cassius' fault in Piano Matty B. All right, Shrooms are in the chat. I see all the Shrooms. You guys are maniacs. Give me my flower so I can shoot some fire. That's all we got for today. Until next time, I'm your host, DZ. If Bitcoin keeps going up, it will continue to please me. Until next time, easy out.